So I had a lot of people ask me, from all the top 100 cryptocurrencies, which one recovers the fastest after a crash or a correction? That will really tell you where will you make the most money. Should you put into Solana or Bitcoin or Ripple or Avalanche or any of the other cryptos? Because if you have that opportunity to buy at that bottom or close enough to it, what should you put your money into? So I went back the entire 14 years of crypto history. I looked at the top coins, including Bitcoin, and went down the list of all the 100, and I went with the top 10 picks. And we might go through the top 15, but we're going to go and specifically focus on those top 10 coins and see which ones recover the fastest and give you the biggest returns during a recovery. So right now, the Bitcoin is down more than 50%. Solana was down between 60 to 75%. And Bitcoin, Ripple actually 66%, massive crashes. So right now, from the bottoms of Ripple, for example, you have a 230% upside to the all-time highs, but that doesn't matter if it takes it a very long time to recover to those highs. So let's focus on which one recovers the fastest. So we're going to go with the king of recovery, and the king of recovery basically includes the best risk-adjusted upside. So maybe there's some small meme coins out there, they may perform more, but we're talking about risk to reward ratio, which means where should you invest with the least amount of risk but the most upside. And that, believe it or not, I was very surprised because I thought it was going to be Ripple, and then I thought it was going to be Solana, but I was wrong on both of those accounts. It is Ethereum. And across, the last 5 years specifically, going all the way back from about 2020 through all of 2025 and now the couple of months of 2026, it is Ripple, it is Ethereum that recovers the fastest, which is unbelievable. I really thought it was going to be Solana or Ripple. And so this is the king of recovery. And again, there's a lot of stuff like the ecosystem leverage, the big institution, funds, banks, all focusing on it. So this could be that key factor in the fastest recovery. The second one, which I thought was going to be number one, which very much surprised me because there's now over 100 different banks that are focusing on utilizing this coin specifically. And this is the coin that I'm building an entire ecosystem. I'm building a Patreon-like application with eBay functionality as its own store. It's called OxRank.com. I'm building my own crypto exchange. I have my own entire crypto analysis tool, and it's all focused on the Solana network. So the biggest one to recover the fastest in second spot is going to be Solana, which is very, very interesting. I did not think, that Solana was going to actually be beaten by Ethereum, but it was. So Solana tends to overshoot both on the up and down, which means it sells off the fastest, but it also recovers the fastest. So usually you end up, if you end up buying at that bottom, you generally want to buy Solana at the very, very bottom. But then when you reach those all-time highs where it typically likes to bounce off of, which is around $225 to $235, that's where you want to sell because it overshoots. So again, it basically becomes overvalued when compared to the top 20 cryptocurrencies. Then in the number 3 spot, which is again unbelievable, it is Bitcoin. And it is actually completely and utterly destroyed by Solana and Ethereum in terms of recovery. So if you're buying at the very bottom of a crypto crash, you will make somewhere between double to 5 times the money. So, if you just bought Solana, for every time Bitcoin went up by 100%, Solana would have gone up by 500%. That's the difference between some portfolio ending up around $180,000 to $200,000 and Solana ending up with $1 million portfolio. So it's a massive difference. So this kind of tells you right after a crash, when you feel like, okay, we're now very close to the bottom, you should not be buying Bitcoin. You should be focusing on Solana, Ethereum first, and then Bitcoin in the third position. In the number 4 spot, which very, very closely resembles Bitcoin, it is the Binance coin. And again, they really are the top when it comes to bailing out of the crypto exchanges, when it comes to stability in the markets, liquidity. It's very, very hard to beat Binance. And again, they survived all of the crashes that have ever existed pretty much completely unscathed. And they actually had the funding to even save FTX and quite a few other crypto exchanges. It just was not worth it for them. But yes, Binance does, BNB coin does resemble Bitcoin very similarly in terms of a recovery. So that is very, very, very interesting. Right under Binance, which again, I did not think that Bitcoin and Binance would do better. But in terms of if you put $100, you will actually get more money from Bitcoin and Binance than you will from Ripple. Ripple does extremely well. Just keep in mind, these is the first, second, third, fourth. So it's the fifth best crypto in the world to recover after a crash. And it's very, very impressive to me. So Ripple is kind of, anytime you're talking about the top 5 kings, this is very interesting because this was not the list I expected. And I spent about 3.5 days and lots of research, computation, looking at charts, calculating it, and comparing it to get to this. And Ripple basically outperforms the other 17,000 cryptocurrencies in existence, taking the number 5 spot. So again, what is the next one? Not a close contender. And I would probably, I would say the best bet for me to maybe just redo this list a little bit, because Ripple is actually much closer to Bitcoin and Binance, than it would be to, let's say, the C category. But, maybe we move Ripple to the B category. It's very close. But right after is Cardano. So, those of you that do love Cardano, it does end up taking that number 6 spot where it recovers pretty well. And again, we've been stagnant in the last couple of years. I do believe that day will come for Cardano where it skyrockets way above $5. It's just not right now, but it is the 6th best crypto in the world to recover, which is excellent for anybody that's a Cardano owner. But again, if you're trying to get the fastest returns, and let's say your entire portfolio crashed, it doesn't matter if maybe you have SUI or you have Ripple or you have, Bitcoin, your number one crypto to buy right after a crash is Solana and Ethereum. Something very interesting to kind of keep in mind. The very, very next one, which is very close, is Avalanche. So Avalanche and Cardano are kind of very close in terms of how much you get. So if you get 300-400% returns, if you bought it, at the bottom with Solana, you get about 70 to 80% returns with Avalanche and Cardano, which is, again, still wonderful. It kind of gives you a nice chart of knowing what to really focus on, which again, I really thought it was going to be Ripple and Solana as my number one pick, but it is actually Ethereum and then Solana. So what do we have after Avalanche, which is very interesting. And again, this data is skewed if you go, the entire 14 years, because some of these cryptocurrencies did not exist. But the very next one to recover right after Avalanche and Cardano is going to be, Dogecoin. So Dogecoin has a pretty good recovery. And this is based on just the amount of money you make, right? If you put in $100, what will turn into 200 or 300 or 400? So we're not talking about fundamentals. Obviously, if you're talking about fundamentals, the 2 best cryptocurrencies in the world are going to be Bitcoin and Ethereum, followed by Solana. So it's very close. But again, Bitcoin is going to be your number 1 pick. Ethereum is going to be your number 2, and the Solana is going to be your number 3. But in terms of just sheerly making money, it is going to be Dogecoin. And then after Dogecoin, we do have in very, very close, it's Tron. And, then we, after Tron, we tend to have Bitcoin Cash recover pretty well, and then Shiba Inu. And then, we have a couple other coins that recover as well, including Sui, PooCoin, we have, this is Chainlink. So, it's a list of pretty much from kind of the bestest of the best to the worst of the best right here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 cryptocurrencies. And again, I did a ton of research and I went back as far as you could. Keep in mind, you've had about 14 years of Bitcoin history. You only have about 8 to maybe 9 years for Ethereum. So I can't really do a full 100% comparison when some of these cryptos have only existed 5 to 9 years. But it's a fantastic list for anybody that's like, okay, it's, the crash is over. We're very close to the bottom. What should I be buying heavily at the moment? And it's going to be Ethereum and Solana. So again, it's a good video for you to kind of get an idea of where your money should be flowing into right after a crash completes. And just make sure that you make the most amount of money for what you put in dollar for dollar, right? So again, I will be doing another video on the best YouTube finance videos, the best YouTubers that give you the highest returns, and the best stocks as well. That's coming up. So make sure you're subscribed. And again, leave a comment down below what you think about this video, what kind of videos you would like, and what do you think about this chart? I mean, this is just based on 14 years of data for majority. So it's pretty incredible to kind of have that in front of us. Again, thank you for watching. Make sure you're subscribed and smash that like button. And leave your opinion and thoughts and comments in the comment section down below. Take care.